HaKlalim, known as the Gate of General Principles, stands as the essential gateway to the vast and intricate world of Lurianic Kabbalah as recorded in the Etz Hayim by Rabbi Hayyim Vital, the primary disciple of Rabbi Isaac Luria. It is not merely an introduction, but the foundational framework upon which all subsequent mystical teachings rest, for without a clear grasp of its principles no deep study of the Kabbalah can bear fruit. The purpose of Sha'ar HaKlalim is to present a metaphysical map of reality, a unified vision that explains how the infinite divine essence gives rise to the finite worlds and how these worlds in turn relate to the human soul, and the task of creation's rectification. At the heart of this teaching is the concept of Ein Sof, the infinite, a term that denotes God's limitless, boundless nature beyond all comprehension, beyond all name and form, transcending time, space, and existence itself. From this absolute infinity emerges the dynamic process of creation, beginning with Tzimtzum, the divine self-contraction, an act in which the infinite withdraws its presence to create a metaphysical space challo, where finite reality can exist without being obliterated by the overwhelming intensity of the infinite light. This contraction is not simply a spatial event, but a profound metaphysical act that lays the ground for all of existence. Into this empty space, the divine light re-enters in a measured and structured form, directed into vessels, kelim, that are designed to receive and contain it. Yet the vessels, being finite, cannot bear the full force of the divine influx, and thus shatter in an event known as Sha'ar HaKlalim, the breaking of the vessels. This cataclysmic shattering is not merely a moment in the cosmic past but a living, ongoing reality, the source of all brokenness, exile, and imperfection in creation and the origin of the scattered divine sparks, netzatzim, that remain hidden within the material and spiritual realms. The work of the Kabbalist, indeed the work of all humanity, is the process of tikkun, the rectification of these sparks, restoring harmony between the finite and infinite, repairing the rupture created in the original process of creation. Sha'ar HaKlalim then unfolds a precise description of the structure of reality through the doctrine of the four worlds: Atzilut, emanation; Bariah, creation; Yetzirah, formation; and Asiyah, action, each representing a progressively lower and more manifest level of reality, descending from the pure unity of divine will to the physical world of action. Atzilut is the realm of pure divine emanation, where the unity of God is preserved without separation. Bariah is the world of creation in which the first distinctions arise, giving form to existence. Yetzirah is the world of formation, realm of angelic beings and emotional structure. Asiyah is the world of action, the realm of physical reality where divine light is clothed in matter and where human beings enact the work of tikkun. Integral to this structure is the teaching of the sefirot, the 10 divine attributes or vessels through which the infinite reveals itself and interacts with creation. These are Keter, crown; Chachma, wisdom; Bina, understanding; Chizd, kindness; Jevira, severity; Tiferet, beauty; Netzach, eternity; Hod, glory; Yesod, foundation; and Malkut, sovereignty, each a channel of divine energy and each embodying a distinct quality of existence interrelating in a living dynamic of giving and receiving light. Sha'ar HaKlalim teaches that understanding these principles must go beyond intellectual study. They must be integrated into lived spiritual practice. For this reason, it presents not only cosmological theory, but a framework for meditation, ethical refinement, and mystical work. Meditation in the tradition of Sha'ar HaKlalim involves deep contemplation of the processes of Tzimtzum, Shevira, and Tikkun, visualizing the flow of divine light through the sefirot and aligning one's own inner faculties with those divine attributes. This contemplative work is complemented by the ethical work of refining one's character in accordance with the qualities of the sefirot, cultivating kindness, discipline, compassion, endurance, humility, and receptivity. In this way, the study of Sha'ar HaKlalim becomes not only an intellectual discipline, but a living path of transformation, a guide for harmonizing one's inner life with the divine structure of reality. Applied within one's own Kabbalistic work, Sha'ar HaKlalim serves as a master key. It opens the door to deeper gates of the Etz Hayim, providing the conceptual tools necessary to engage with the more advanced teachings of Lurianic Kabbalah, to enact the work of tikkun in both the self and the world. This makes Sha'ar HaKlalim not simply a theoretical introduction, but a practical manual for spiritual ascent, a sustained meditation on the relationship between the infinite and the finite, and a blueprint for the ongoing rectification of creation. By absorbing its teachings and applying them through study, meditation, ethical refinement, and intentional spiritual work, the student of Kabbalah begins to embody the principles of the Gate of General Principles, transforming them into a living reality and making their own life a vessel for the flow of divine light and harmony. To truly comprehend Sha'ar HaKlalim, it is necessary to approach it not merely as a text, but as a living framework, a system of perception that transforms the way one sees both the cosmos and oneself. The gate begins by directing the student toward an understanding of Ein Sof as the root reality, not a philosophical abstraction, but an experiential truth. Ein Sof is described in the Zoharic and Lurianic tradition as utterly beyond form, beyond comprehension, beyond duality. It is absolute unity, the source of all existence, yet transcending all created being. This concept challenges the mind to move beyond rational categories and to engage in a form of contemplative surrender, where knowledge is replaced by direct experiential awareness. From Ein Sof emerges the dynamic process of creation, which is not a single moment, but an ongoing reality, beginning with the act of Tzimtzum, the divine contraction. Tzimtzum is the foundational concept that explains how infinity can give rise to finitude without destroying it. In order for creation to exist, God withdraws his infinite light, creating a metaphysical void, a chalal, within which finite reality may come into being. This withdrawal is not annihilation, but a deliberate concealment, allowing the emergence of space, time, and multiplicity. Within this void, measured emanations of divine light enter to initiate creation, but these emanations encounter vessels that are not yet prepared to contain them. These vessels, the kelim, shatter under the pressure of the light, and this shattering, Sha'ar HaKlalim, becomes the metaphysical cause of fragmentation in reality. It is the first rupture in creation and the origin of the exile of the sparks. These sparks, Nitsatsum, descend into lower realms, becoming concealed within matter and within the human soul. This cosmic drama reveals that the task of the mystic is not merely to ascend toward the divine, but to engage in the work of tikkun, gathering and elevating these scattered sparks. Sha'ar HaKlalim presents this work of rectification as the highest purpose of human existence, making the study of Kabbalah not an abstract exercise, but a practical spiritual mission. The gate thus situates the contemplative life within a cosmic drama, connecting the personal with the universal, the inner transformation with the restoration of the whole world. Sha'ar HaKlalim unfolds this cosmic structure through the doctrine of the four worlds, a metaphysical ladder descending from pure unity into multiplicity. Each world represents a different mode of divine revelation and a distinct level of consciousness. The highest world, Atzilut, is the realm of pure emanation, where the unity of God is preserved in its fullest integrity, and where the sefirot exist in a state of complete harmony. Atzilut is the domain of absolute divine life, where creation exists only as expression of unity. Below Atzilut is Bariah, the world of creation, where the first distinctions begin to appear and the concept of separateness emerges. Bariah is the realm of intellect and archetypal form, the world of the divine throne, the place where creation receives its blueprint. Below Bariah lies Yetzirah, the world of formation, where these archetypes take on form and structure, and where the emotional and angelic realms operate. Yetzirah is the world of shaping and becoming, where divine ideas begin to take concrete form. Finally, Asiyah is the world of action, the physical realm where the divine light is clothed in matter and where creation manifests in its fullest particularity. Each of these worlds is not separate but flows into the other, and each reflects a stage in the soul's descent and ascent. Sha'ar HaKlalim teaches that mastery of these worlds, and the ability to navigate their dynamics, is essential for the spiritual seeker. This mastery is not merely intellectual but experiential, involving meditation on each world, reflection on its qualities, and practical work to align oneself with its divine purpose. Central to the Gate of General Principles is the teaching of the sefirot, the 10 vessels through which the divine light flows. These are not abstract metaphysical categories, but living forces, qualities of divine manifestation that structure both the cosmos and the soul. Keter, the crown, represents the unknowable divine will, the source of all emanation. Chachma, wisdom, is the spark of pure insight, the first flash of creation. Bina, understanding, gives form to that insight. shaping it into coherent structure. Cheesed, kindness, is the expansive force of love and giving. Gevura, severity, the constrictive force of discipline and limitation. Tiferet, beauty, the harmonious balance between cheesed and gevura, the synthesis of mercy and strength. Netzach, eternity, is the force of endurance and victory. Hod, glory, the power of humility and submission. Yesod, foundation, the channel through which all the upper worlds flow into manifestation. And Malkut, sovereignty, the receptive vessel that actualizes the divine presence in the world. Sha'ar HaKlalim teaches that the sefirot are not static but dynamic, a living system of forces in constant interplay. They form a map of reality, a spiritual anatomy that reflects the structure of the cosmos and the structure of the human soul. To study the gate is therefore to begin the work of aligning one's inner life with these divine qualities, cultivating them within oneself as a form of spiritual practice. This alignment becomes the basis for mystical transformation, making the study of Sha'ar HaKlalim a lived discipline rather than an abstract theory. Within this framework, Sha'ar HaKlalim offers specific methods of meditation and kavanah that allow the student to internalize the principles. The meditations are not merely intellectual exercises but intentional acts of spiritual alignment. They include contemplation on the process of tzimtzum, visualizing the contraction of divine light, and the creation of the chalal, meditations on the shevura, thus perceiving the hidden brokenness in the world and within oneself, and contemplations on tikkun, envisioning the gathering and elevation of sparks. These meditations serve as both a map and a method, providing the aspirant with a direct experiential understanding of the teachings. Moreover, they guide the student to engage in ethical refinement, the shaping of character in harmony with the qualities of the sefirot. This ethical work is inseparable from meditation. One cannot truly meditate on cheesed without cultivating kindness. One cannot engage with gevura without practicing discipline. One cannot approach tiferet without seeking harmony within oneself and one's relationships. Thus, Sha'ar HaKlalim makes clear that the path of Kabbalah is not an escape from life but a transformation of life itself, where the study of mystical principles becomes a living practice embedded in every action, thought, and intention. Sha'ar HaKlalim also teaches that this work must be sustained over time and integrated systematically into one's spiritual life. It is not enough to study the gate once. It must be revisited continually, each time at a deeper level. The principles of the gate are not static knowledge, but living realities that unfold progressively as the seeker matures. The study of Sha'ar HaKlalim should therefore be approached with patience, humility, and discipline, cultivating a steady rhythm of study, meditation, and ethical application. For the advanced Kabbalist, this gate becomes a continual point of return, a foundation to which all deeper mystical exploration refers. It shapes the way one approaches every other aspect of the Lurianic system, providing the conceptual and practical tools necessary for deeper gates such as Sha'ar HaYechudim, the gate of unifications, and Sha'ar HaJogulim, the gate of reincarnations. Without mastery of Sha'ar HaKlalim, the deeper teachings remain inaccessible or unstable, for the gate is the scaffolding upon which the entire edifice of Lurianic Kabbalah rests. Sha'ar HaKlalim also emphasizes the necessity of cultivating an inner experiential discipline alongside intellectual comprehension, teaching that the truths of the gate must be embodied through both inward meditation and outward living. This is why it places great importance on the role of kavanah, deliberate intention, in all spiritual practice. Kavanah is the inner orientation of the heart and mind, the conscious alignment of one's will with the divine will, and it is the key to transforming knowledge into lived reality. To enter the study of Sha'ar HaKlalim without kavanah is to read words without soul. To engage with the gate without inward transformation is to miss its deeper power. The Ari, through Rabbi Hayyim Vital's recording, instructs that a proper approach to the gate requires a daily cultivation of awareness and orientation of the soul toward the divine structure of reality and a continual reflection upon one's role within that cosmic order. This involves cultivating the inner faculties associated with the sefirot, practicing cheesed through acts of compassion, gevura through discipline and restraint, tiferet through the harmonization of opposites, netzach through perseverance, hod through humility, yesod through purity of intention, and malkut through devoted receptivity to divine sovereignty. These ethical qualities are not separate from the meditative work, but its living expression. and they serve as the grounding through which the student can engage more fully with the deeper dimensions of the gate. Meditation on Sha'ar HaKlalim thus becomes a multi-layered practice, intellectual contemplation of the principles, experiential visualization of the cosmic processes, ethical refinement of character, and an inward turning of the will toward divine unity. Over time, this practice cultivates an inner alignment with the structure of reality described in the gate, allowing the seeker to inhabit the teachings rather than merely study them. A crucial feature of Sha'ar HaKlalim is its treatment of the relationship between knowledge, and the rectification of the world, tikkun alam. The gate teaches that knowledge of the divine structure is itself a form of rectification when it is lived with intention and integrated into action. In other words, the highest mystical knowledge is not abstract theorizing, but knowledge that transforms life, shapes character, and brings the soul into harmony with its divine source. This principle redefines the purpose of study. It is not the accumulation of intellectual insight, but the transformation of being. Therefore, Sha'ar HaKlalim functions as both a cosmological treatise and a practical guide for spiritual work. It provides the conceptual framework for understanding the structure of creation, but also the methodology for aligning one's own inner world with that structure. This dual purpose is why the gate must be approached as an ongoing discipline, a living path rather than a static body of knowledge. The study of Sha'ar HaKlalim requires a rhythm of life in which contemplation, meditation, ethical refinement, and mystical practice are integrated. This rhythm is cultivated through regular study sessions, periods of deep meditation on specific teachings of the gate, ethical self-reflection, and the practical application of the sefirot in daily life. The Ari's teaching in the gate therefore points toward a holistic spiritual discipline in which knowledge and action, contemplation and transformation, inner work and outer deed are inseparable. From a technical standpoint, the study of Sha'ar HaKlalim can be organized into a sustained program of study, meditation, and practice. A suggested schedule for serious students might involve a dedicated daily time for the study of the gate, beginning with focused reading and reflection on the text itself, then moving into contemplative meditation on the themes of the section. This meditation might involve visualizing the process of tzimtzum, Sha'ar HaKlalim, and tikkun, or meditating on the qualities of specific sefirot and their application to one's own life. Weekly study could include deeper reflection on the four worlds, mapping one's own inner states onto the structure of Atzilut, Bariah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. Monthly practice might involve integrating ethical self-reflection on how one embodies the qualities of the sefirot, and quarterly review could involve a broader contemplation of the gate as a whole and its unfolding in one's spiritual path. This disciplined approach transforms the study of Sha'ar HaKlalim into a lived system of spiritual work, in which the gate becomes not merely a book to be studied but a practice to be inhabited. For the serious aspirant, the goal is to reach a state in which the principles of the gate are no longer separate from life but are the living structure of one's being, a continual alignment with the divine process of emanation, contraction, breaking, and rectification. In this way, Sha'ar HaKlalim becomes both a map of creation and a mirror of the soul, guiding the seeker toward mastery of the gate and, ultimately, toward the realization of the higher purpose of Kabbalistic work, the restoration of harmony between the finite and the infinite. A deeper study of Sha'ar HaKlalim reveals that the gate is structured around not only metaphysical principles, but also practical, experiential teachings on the nature of divine interaction with creation and the process of returning creation to its source. At the heart of this is the concept of tzimtzum, the divine contraction, which lies at the foundation of all Lurianic Kabbalah and is central to the practical work of the gate. The Ari teaches that tzimtzum is not merely a metaphysical event but an ongoing dynamic that occurs within creation and within the soul itself. The contraction creates the chalal, a metaphysical space in which finite existence can emerge. But this space is inherently charged with potential. The aspirant learns that meditation on tzimtzum involves a conscious entering into that space of divine concealment, a deliberate turning inward to meet the hidden presence of God. This inward turning requires cultivating silence and stillness, not only externally, but within one's own faculties of thought and perception. It is a disciplined letting go, a surrender of fixed conceptions in order to receive the divine presence in its purest form. Such a practice is not abstract, it is embedded in the daily life of the Kabbalist. It can be cultivated through meditative exercises in which one imagines the withdrawing of light, the creation of the chalal, and the emergence of a space in which new possibilities arise. This meditative work develops a heightened capacity for presence, enabling the seeker to perceive the divine within the concealed fabric of reality. Through such practice, Tzimtzum becomes not only a doctrine but a living orientation of the soul toward the hidden ground of being. Following Tzimtzum, the gate focuses on the Sha'ar HaKlalim, the shattering of the vessels, which is the second great principle of Lurianic Kabbalah. The Ari teaches that this shattering is the metaphysical cause of exile and the concealment of the divine presence in creation. It is the source of brokenness in the cosmos, and by extension, the source of human spiritual exile. The work of the Kabbalist is therefore to participate consciously in the process of tikkun, the restoration of the broken vessels and the gathering of the scattered sparks. Sha'ar HaKlalim presents tikkun as the central mission of creation and as a practical spiritual work that involves both mystical perception and ethical action. Meditation on Sha'ar HaKlalim invites the aspirant to perceive not only the brokenness within the world, but also within the self, and to cultivate a deliberate openness to the process of repair. This is achieved through practices of reflection and prayer, through ethical rectification of personal faults, and through acts of loving kindness that gather the sparks of holiness embedded in every aspect of existence. In practical terms, the meditative work of the gate involves visualizing the vessels of creation as fragile containers of divine light, seeing the cracks and ruptures not as causes of despair but as openings for transformation. This vision fosters a humility grounded in awareness of the hidden work of God in the world, and a recognition of one's own role as an active participant in tikkun. The meditation thus becomes both a mystical exercise and an ethical discipline, uniting the inner path of the soul with the outer work of healing the world. Sha'ar HaKlalim further develops these ideas through the doctrine of the four worlds, providing a systematic structure for understanding the descent and ascent of divine light. The practice of meditation on the four worlds forms one of the central disciplines of the gate. In Atzilut, the aspirant contemplates unity and emanation, entering into a consciousness that transcends separation and multiplicity. This contemplation is supported by meditative techniques that cultivate an awareness of divine unity behind all forms, leading to a state of contemplative stillness where the soul rests in its source. In Bariah, meditation turns toward the realm of creation, where divine archetypes are formed. Here the work involves contemplating the shaping of thought and form, cultivating insight and understanding, and discerning the patterns through which divine wisdom structures existence. In Yetzirah, the focus shifts to formation and emotional harmony, involving the cultivation of harmony between thought and feeling, and the shaping of intention into form. Meditation at this level includes the contemplation of angelic realms and the refinement of emotional qualities in correspondence with the sefirot. Finally, in Asiyah, meditation engages with the realm of action, bringing the insights of the higher worlds into the lived reality of daily life. This level involves practical exercises of ethical rectification, aligning one's actions with divine purpose, and embodying the principles of the gate in the world. Sha'ar HaKlalim teaches that mastery of the four worlds is not a purely theoretical task, but a lived practice that integrates the whole being, requiring both disciplined study and sustained meditative engagement. The gate also places special emphasis on the central role of the sefirot as living forces to be internalized. In meditation, each sefirah becomes a focal point for aligning one's soul with divine reality. The aspirant might meditate on Chis to cultivate expansiveness and generosity, on Jevira to develop discipline and discernment, on Tiferet to harmonize opposites and embody beauty, on Netzach to cultivate endurance and spiritual victory, on Had to develop humility and gratitude, on Yesod to purify intention and channel divine presence. Then on Malkut to cultivate receptivity and active manifestation of divine will. This meditative work is not merely an exercise of the imagination, but a discipline of the soul, aligning character, perception, and action with the divine structure. Sha'ar HaKlalim therefore offers both the map and the method, the map of the sefirot, the four worlds, and the cosmic processes, and the method of meditation, kavana, ethical refinement, and practical alignment with the divine will. For the serious practitioner, this becomes a lifelong discipline, a continuous process of deepening both understanding and embodiment of the gate's principles. Over time, this sustained practice brings about an inner transformation that allows the seeker to move beyond conceptual knowledge into a living realization of the unity of all existence and to stand as a conscious participant in the ongoing work of creation and rectification. To bring Sha'ar HaKlalim into full practical application, the aspirant must cultivate not only contemplative insight, but a structured regimen of spiritual discipline that integrates study, meditation, and ethical living. The gate itself suggests a path of progressive refinement, moving the seeker from intellectual grasp of principles into direct inner experience and embodiment of those truths. A technical approach to this involves establishing a daily rhythm of practice grounded in both the text and the meditative disciplines it prescribes. Each day should begin with a period of study in which one reads with deep attention to the structure of the gate, reflecting on the principles of Tzimtzum, Sha'ar HaKlalim, and tikkun, and relating them to one's own life. This study should not be rushed, rather it should be slow and meditative, allowing the teachings to penetrate the mind and heart. Following this study, a period of meditation should be undertaken, structured to correspond with the themes studied. This meditation might include visualizing the contraction of the divine light in the formation of the chalal, contemplating the broken vessels and the scattered sparks, and imagining one's own soul participating in the process of rectification. Such meditation is strengthened by the use of sacred names and intentional kavanah, focusing the mind toward a conscious alignment with divine reality. The aspirant might also employ techniques of breathwork or guided visualization, drawing upon the language and symbolism of Sha'ar HaKlalim to deepen the meditative experience. This daily discipline is not mechanical but transformative, designed to train both mind and soul in the art of perceiving the hidden structure of creation and participating in its restoration. Beyond the daily practice, Sha'ar HaKlalim invites the practitioner to structure their study across longer cycles, weekly, monthly, and yearly, in order to integrate the gate into the living rhythm of one's life. Weekly cycles might involve focused study of specific sections of the gate, deep meditations on a particular sefirot, or concentrated reflection on one of the four worlds. Such weekly practice allows the seeker to deepen their grasp of each element of the gate before moving on to the next, cultivating a sustained engagement with the teaching rather than fragmented encounters. Monthly cycles can involve a review and synthesis of what has been learned, perhaps supported by extended periods of retreat, silence, or intensive meditation. These monthly reviews create a rhythm of deepening and integration, allowing the aspirant to measure their progress and renew their intention. Yearly cycles allow for a larger perspective, enabling the seeker to map the unfolding of their work in relation to the cycles of nature, the Jewish calendar, and the spiritual seasons of life. Sha'ar HaKlalim teaches that this kind of cyclical structure mirrors the cosmic cycles themselves, the rhythms of emanation and return, and that by aligning one's practice with these rhythms, the aspirant comes into harmony with the flow of divine life. This alignment transforms study into living participation in the cosmic process described in the gate, making the aspirant not only a student but an active agent of tikkun. Technical application of the gate's methods also involves the disciplined cultivation of kavanah in all aspects of life. The Ari stresses that the principles of Sha'ar HaKlalim are not confined to the meditation chamber or the study hall but extend into every moment of living. Kavanah means directing the will and consciousness so that every action becomes a channel for the divine. In practical terms, this requires integrating the meditative qualities of the sefirot into everyday acts, practicing cheese through acts of generosity, gevura through restraint and ethical discernment, teferet through harmonizing relationships, netzach through persistency, a face of difficulty, had through humility in speech and action, yesod through purity of thought and intention, and malkut through conscious receptivity to divine guidance. Such integration transforms the practice of the gate into a lived Kabbalah, a continuous work of aligning one's being with the divine structure. It also transforms the seeker's perception of life itself, turning every encounter, every challenge, and every moment into a potential act of tikkun. This integration is the living fruit of Sha'ar HaKlalim's teaching, the movement from knowledge to embodiment, from contemplation to action, from study to transformation. The aspirant thereby learns that the gate is not a static body of doctrine, but a living path, a lifelong discipline that requires both intellectual engagement and ethical embodiment. In this way, Sha'ar HaKlalim becomes not merely a chapter of Kabbalistic teaching but the very foundation of a transformative spiritual life. The practical discipline of Sha'ar HaKlalim also requires an understanding of the deeper relationship between the aspirant's inner work and the collective work of creation. The Ari teaches that the work of the individual is inseparable from the cosmic process of tikkun. Every act of inner rectification, every meditative alignment with the divine, contributes to the gathering of sparks and the repair of the worlds. This awareness transforms the aspirant's work into a conscious participation in a cosmic task. It gives ethical work, meditation, and study a higher dimension, turning them into acts of cosmic significance. Therefore, the discipline of the gate involves cultivating a continual awareness of this relationship, seeing one's own inner work as a reflection of and contribution to the larger purpose of creation. This awareness becomes a central element of the aspirant's meditative practice, shaping the intention behind every moment of study and every act of life. It is the realization of the gate's deepest teaching, that the highest knowledge is lived knowledge, that the true wisdom of Sha'ar HaKlalim lies in the transformation of the self and the world, and that the path of Kabbalah is ultimately the path of living in conscious harmony with the divine will. As the aspirant advances in their study of Sha'ar HaKlalim, the gate unfolds as a living system, offering not only conceptual knowledge but a structured framework for disciplined meditative practice and long-term mastery. Technical mastery of the gate requires sustained immersion in its meditative techniques, which function as both transformative exercises and tools for inner alchemy. These techniques, drawn directly from the Ari's teaching, involve a structured engagement with the sefirot, the four worlds, and the dynamic processes of tzimtzum, shevira, and tikkun. One of the most central methods involves what the Ari describes as kavanah hasad, the secret intentionality, a focused state of mind in which the aspirant aligns thought, feeling, and will toward the rectification of the soul and the cosmos. This requires the cultivation of a certain spiritual discipline, the capacity to withdraw attention from the distractions of the mundane world, to enter into a state of concentrated awareness, and to hold that awareness steadily on the higher realities the gate reveals. A practical way to begin this cultivation is through daily periods of silence and meditation, starting with brief sessions of 20 to 30 minutes and gradually expanding to an hour or more. Within these meditations, the practitioner visualizes the dynamic flow of divine light, beginning with the contraction, tzimtzum, that opens the chalal and proceeding into a contemplation of the broken vessels and the scattering of sparks. The meditator then focuses on the process of gathering and rectifying these sparks, aligning themselves with the cosmic process of tikkun. This inner work is enhanced by the use of sacred names, structured breathwork, and guided visualization techniques that the Ari emphasizes as keys to deepening perception and effecting transformation. Such meditations are not merely intellectual exercises. They are embodied spiritual practices that transform perception, reshape intention, and purify the soul. For a serious student of Sha'ar HaKlalim, technical mastery must be embedded in a disciplined long-term schedule. The Ari's teaching suggests structuring study and meditation in layered cycles that mirror the ascending order of the worlds and the descending flow of divine light. A yearly schedule might divide the gate into sections, dedicating specific months to intensive study of each major principle, such as tzimtzum, shevira, tikkun, the sefirot, and the four worlds. Within each month, the aspirant would establish weekly cycles of study and meditation, focusing on specific meditative exercises that correspond to the section under review. Daily practice would involve a morning session of study and reflection, a midday practice of silence and visualization, and an evening session of meditation and journaling to integrate insights into lived experience. Over time, this discipline cycle fosters both depth of understanding and refinement of spiritual perception, transforming Sha'ar HaKlalim from an abstract teaching into an embodied way of life. Importantly, the Ari emphasizes that such a schedule must not be rigid or mechanical, but fluid and responsive to the aspirant's evolving inner state. The practitioner must cultivate discernment to adjust the rhythm of study and meditation in accordance with their own spiritual condition, always guided by the principle of sincere intention, kavanah, and the aspiration toward tikkun. This approach transforms the study of Sha'ar HaKlalim into a living art, a lifelong practice in which study, meditation, and ethical living become inseparable dimensions of the same work. Integration of Sha'ar HaKlalim into advanced Kabbalistic work requires a deep engagement with its relationship to other major works of the Ari, particularly Etz Hayim. The gate is, in many ways, the foundation of all Lurianic teaching, providing the general principles upon which the detailed structures of Etz Hayim and other writings rest. Advanced students therefore approach the gate not as a closed system, but as a living doorway into the deeper, more expansive meditations of Lurianic Kabbalah. This means that mastery of Sha'ar HaKlalim opens the way to sustained practice in the deeper mysteries of Etz Hayim, including the complex dynamics of Partsufim, divine personifications, the hidden structures of divine flow, and the detailed processes of cosmic rectification. Practically, this requires the aspirant to maintain a parallel study of Sha'ar HaKlalim alongside these other texts, allowing each to illuminate the other. The technical work of the gate, its meditations, visualizations, and ethical practices, provides the living foundation that makes the deeper theoretical study of Etz Hayim fruitful. This integrated approach reflects the essential teaching of the Ari, that Kabbalah is not a static body of knowledge, but a dynamic art of spiritual transformation, requiring both theoretical comprehension and sustained meditative application. The gate, therefore, becomes the key not only to understanding Lurianic Kabbalah but to living it. For the advanced practitioner, the integration of Sha'ar HaKlalim into daily life becomes the heart of their Kabbalistic work. The gate's principles are not confined to meditation or study, but extend into every act of living, transforming the way the aspirant perceives reality and relates to the world. This means cultivating the habit of conscious intention in every moment, seeing all action as an opportunity for tikkun, and every encounter as a chance to align one's will with the divine flow. This is the living application of Kavanah, the secret of the gate. Such living application requires sustained self-reflection, continual cultivation of humility, and an openness to the guidance of the divine. It also requires an awareness of the ethical dimension of the gate's teaching, that rectification is not only a metaphysical task, but a moral one, requiring the aspirant to embody compassion, humility, patience, and a continual readiness to transform themselves and the world. In this way, Sha'ar HaKlalim ceases to be a purely intellectual study and becomes a living discipline, the foundation of a full Kabbalistic path. The gate thus transforms the seeker into a conscious participant in the cosmic drama of creation, exile, and redemption, embodying the highest teaching of the Ari, that the work of the mystic is to bring heaven into earth through the continuous work of tikkun. At the most advanced level of engagement with Sha'ar HaKlalim, the aspirant moves beyond the preliminary study of principles and enters into a dedicated practice of the gate's deepest meditative techniques, which are the very core of Lurianic Kabbalistic work. These meditations are not abstract intellectual exercises, but embodied practices designed to transform consciousness and align the soul with the cosmic process of tikkun. One essential method is the practice of meditation on the contraction Hippodadit Simtsum, whereby the practitioner visualizes the primordial withdrawal of the infinite light in the formation of the Chalal, the spiritual space in which creation can unfold. This meditation begins with deep preparation, calming the body, focusing the mind, and cultivating an attitude of sacred presence, followed by a visualization of the withdrawal as a cosmic movement. The meditator imagines a vast light receding into infinity, leaving a hollow center filled with potentiality. Within this Chalal, the meditator contemplates the interplay of concealment and revelation, understanding that the concealment of divine light is not absence but a higher kind of presence. This is followed by a contemplative entrance into the process of Sha'ar HaKlalim, the shattering of vessels, in which the meditator visualizes the breaking of divine vessels as sparks scattering through the fabric of reality. The meditator then focuses on gathering these sparks, invoking the intention of tikkun, and imagining them being restored to their source. This practice cultivates the aspirant's capacity to participate consciously in the cosmic drama of exile and redemption, embodying the central teaching of the Ari that human spiritual work is an active contribution to the repair of the worlds. Another advanced technique is meditation on the sefirot as channels of divine flow, which involves entering into the structure of the divine emanations and aligning one's consciousness with their dynamic interplay. This meditation requires an intimate knowledge of the structure of the sefirot as presented in Sha'ar HaKlalim, as well as the capacity to hold these correspondences in the mind during sustained contemplation. The meditator begins with the lower sefirot, focusing on Yesod and Malkut as the points of direct reception of divine life, and ascends progressively through Hod, Netzach, Tiferet, Jevurah, Chizd, Bina, Chokmah, and Keter. At each level, the practitioner contemplates both the particular qualities of the sephirah and its role within the living system of creation. This contemplative ascent is accompanied by specific kavanah, intentional prayers or meditations and visualizations, often guided by sacred names and letter combinations given in the Ari's writings. The goal of this practice is to internalize the structure of the sefirot, so that one's perception of reality becomes aligned with the divine geometry of creation. This alignment transforms meditation into a living realization, a state in which the aspirant perceives the flow of divine light in every aspect of existence and acts from a place of conscious harmony with that flow. To master these meditative techniques, the aspirant must incorporate them into a long-term discipline schedule that reflects the cyclic nature of Kabbalistic work. This schedule should be organized around 3 layers: daily practice, cyclical review, and seasonal integration. Daily practice might involve a morning meditation on Tzimtzum and Jevurah, a midday contemplation of the Sefirot, and an evening session of reflection and journaling to integrate insights into lived life. Weekly cycles might rotate focus between different meditative themes, allowing for sustained engagement with specific teachings while avoiding stagnation. Monthly cycles would involve a deeper retreat into extended meditative work, perhaps dedicating entire days to immersion in the gate's themes, combined with periods of silence and contemplative journaling. Seasonal cycles, guided by the Jewish calendar and the cycles of nature, would allow the aspirant to align their work with cosmic rhythms, such as the renewal of life in spring or the inward contemplation of winter. Over years of disciplined practice, these cycles cultivate both depth of insight and integration of the gate's teachings into the fabric of one's spiritual life. The aspirant thus moves toward mastery not as an achievement of accumulation, but as a lived transformation, a state in which the principles of Sha'ar HaKlalim are embodied in thought, action, and being. At this level, Sha'ar HaKlalim ceases to be a subject of study and becomes the very foundation of one's spiritual identity. The meditator learns to see all life through the lens of the gate, perceiving reality as a living interplay of concealment and revelation, exile and redemption. This perception transforms every action into a potential act of tikkun, and every moment into a microcosm of the cosmic process. The advanced practitioner understands that the purpose of Sha'ar HaKlalim is not simply to impart knowledge, but to cultivate an inner orientation toward divine alignment, a continual return to the source through the disciplined refinement of the soul. In this way, mastery of the gate becomes the threshold to higher Kabbalistic work, preparing the aspirant for deeper meditations in Etz Hayim, Sha'ar HaKlalim, and other profound teachings of the Ari. Ultimately, the mastery of Sha'ar HaKlalim is the mastery of oneself, the ability to live in constant awareness of the divine flow, to act from a place of conscious intention, and to become a living instrument of tikkun. This is the gate's deepest teaching and the highest aim of all Kabbalistic work, that through disciplined study, meditation, and ethical transformation, the aspirant can become a conscious partner in the ongoing creation and rectification of the worlds.